What is going on, guys? Jeff back here for part 2 of the Excelsior hood build. If you haven't seen the first part of this, it's on the channel right now, so be sure to go back and watch that before you watch this, because this is going to continue directly from where the last one left off. Alright, so in the last video we had just finished doing our clay work to fill in the gaps here on the sides of the new venting that we're doing, and we are now ready to go in and start doing some fiberglass work. Everything is already sanded down. I actually put a little bevel off camera on these edges right here so that the fiberglass would lay over just a little bit better right there, but we are ready to go for fiberglassing. Real quick, I'm just going to show you all I'm going to be doing for the fiberglass is I'm going to be using a mat and a cloth style, so I'm going to be laying them up one after the other, probably 4 layers, so 2 layers of each, so 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of like that pattern, and that will give it the most strength, and it will lay down very beautifully. I'm just using a standard fiberglass resin right now, polyester resin. I'm not going to bother with epoxy or anything like that. A polyester resin is going to be just fine. I've got my mixing brushes, I've got my cups, of course, my mixing sticks, and the hardener. Everything pretty much ready to go. So the heat is already starting to set in here. It gets hot very quickly here, so I need to kind of work quickly, because as soon as it heats up around here, that resin sets up like that. So that's also one of the reasons why I have multiple mixing cups there, is because especially when it's hot, you never want to mix up one big pot of resin, because it's going to set up really fast. So I actually do multiple pots with the hardener on standby, and I do one at a time, so that it doesn't all just harden up really quickly. I can actually extend it out a little bit longer that way. So let's get started. I'm going to first start cutting out some of the shapes of the fiberglass that I need to lay this down. I'm not just going to lay it on willy-nilly there. It will save you a lot of time to take the time to actually cut out the specific shapes of what you need, as opposed to just cutting a big block and laying it over. You'll have a bunch of excess that you'll need to cut off if you don't take the time now to actually cut it out in the correct shape. Now for now, I'm just going to be doing these the side sections as I've explained, and we're not going to come in and do any of this the front section or any of this area right here. We're just going to be doing up to here, and then I'll probably cut it straight like that. So we're just looking to fiberglass the walls. It'll come over onto the bottom section here, and it will fold over to the top section as well, and then it will again cut off right there on both sides. So that's what we're going to be doing right now before it heats up. So let me get this stuff cut out and we'll get started right away. Alright, I've gone ahead and cut out all the fiberglass that we're going to need. Again, we're using the cloth and the mat, and this is a 1.5 ounce mat, so it's fairly thick. It's not super thick, but it's thick enough where I'm only going to need 2 layers of the mat and 2 layers of the cloth. That will be sufficient strength, and the 1.5 is also great for building up a little bit of thickness that we're going to need along the sides of the venting. So again, 2 pieces of each for each side. I'm going to do one side at a time, and that's what you always want to do when you're doing a fiberglass project, is don't rush it. If you try and rush it, it's going to be a huge mess. You're going to probably end up wasting material, so just do one small part at a time and take your time with it, and that's always going to give you the better results. I'm just going to fill 4 of these containers. I'm not going to mix them all yet, but I'm going to actually do 4 of them. I have four cups here. I buy this Greek yogurt, this organic Greek yogurt at Costco. For those of you guys who are into diet and fitness and stuff, this is the stuff, man. You guys, trust me, lots of protein. Get this stuff. It's like $5 for one of these containers at Costco. Anyways, I'm going to fill up 4 of these, and I'm going to also use these little mini cups right here for the hardener. And I'm going to have this on standby, like I said. So I'm just going to do one at a time. I'm going to start with 1 cup, lay it on, and then as I need more, I will have these ready to go with the proper measured amount of hardener, with the resin already poured in the extra cups, and then as I need it, I will mix it up at the time. That's a much better option than trying to do everything all at once. That way you'll know that you're not going to set up in the middle of the process. Oh, last quick note too is I went ahead and masked off this the vent area right here on the side. I don't want any of the resin to get onto the carbon vents. I actually want to keep the carbon look on the vents there. So I went ahead and masked that off. I'm also going to end up putting masking here so that resin doesn't drip down into the engine. I don't want that. So I'm going to block this as well before I actually lay down the resin. Okay, and just like that, we have our one side all fiberglassed up. It's going to look just like that once the glass and resin is applied. So I had cut the fiberglass obviously to the shape approximately of the this center section between the center vent and the side vents, and then it just drapes very nicely over the clay wall that we made, and then about an inch or so worth of overlap over the bottom section is comfortable for me, so that I know it's going to stick really hard. It's going to be a strong bond over that sanded surface, and then all this excess stuff is going to be sanded away, trimmed away. Same thing on that side, that's all going to be trimmed away. But we have a nice amount of thickness, very strong. We did the 4 layers back to back on the cloth and the mat, which is the way to go for fiberglass if you want strength, especially for a piece like a hood that's going to see a lot of airflow and stuff. You want to make sure you're doing it the right way, making it nice and strong. Okay, so we're going to do the same exact thing on this side. One cool thing is I actually only needed 3 cups of the resin. I did make 4, although I didn't end up using this 4th one, which is great. But you always want to have more than enough, so pour more than you think you're going to need. In this case I needed 3 cups of 4-ounce cups, that is. Total of 12 ounces to do one side, so I'm going to end up doing I'm going to fill another 3 cups. I'm still going to keep a 4th on standby just in case, because you never know. Sometimes it's weird. One side will take a little more than the other. I don't know why, but let's get started on the other side and get this thing all glassed up. All right, there it is. The other side is now fiberglassed up just like the first side, and it's looking great. The application worked awesome, but now we are at the point where we just wait. It's kind of a waiting game right now. In this heat, I imagine this will set up within about 4 hours, probably even less than that. It's going to get up to triple digits here in just a little bit, so this will set up fairly quickly, but until then we kind of have to keep our hands off of it and just let it do its thing. Just a couple of little notes. If you get like little splashes and stuff like this while you're doing glass work in areas where you don't want it to be, don't worry about it. Just let it cure up for about 20 minutes or so, and then it will become like a rigid type of a gel as it's curing. And then once it's at that point, then it's super easy to just pick it off. Don't try and like wipe it while it's still in its liquidy form, because then it's just going to make a mess and you got to sand it down and all that. But if you let it sit for about 20 minutes or less, depending on how hot it is, it's going to become a gel, and then you can just literally take your fingernail and flick it off. So not a big deal. If you wait longer than that, it's going to solidify and become kind of a pita. So definitely get it before it becomes incredibly hard. If that happens, you do have to sand it down. But so far so good, guys. I will come back after this is cured up, and we're going to start doing some sanding detail. All right, guys, so here we are back out here. It is about 3.5, close to 4 hours later. We are fully hardened up just like I thought. It is about 103 degrees outside right now, so it is burning hot. But I went and killed a gym session, came back, took a little 20-minute nap, and here we are. We're ready to start doing some preliminary sanding here. Just going to get the orbital sander out and start sanding down some of this section right here. I may do a little further back too. It's not really necessary for me to do that right now, but that's really the only thing I can do because I can't lay down more fiberglass. So let's sand some of this down. Maybe we'll get rid of some of the excess material we don't need on the edges too. So as I've gotten into the process of sanding, you can see here that I'm not trying to sand this flat as I had mentioned before or in the last video with regards to the design. I'm actually just trying to focus on this center section to create a little bit of a dip in the middle, because I want it to be raised on this edge and I want a little bit of a raise on this edge as well. So I'm just trying to put like a little channel in through here so that we get a nice curve, and then it will curve up on that side as well, just like that. So definitely a intentional form of sanding, not just trying to sand it down, because we do want as much thickness as we can get so that it's holding tight, it's strong enough to hold that section in place, and it just increases the overall rigidity of the hood. So as I'm sanding, I'm not just being careless with it, I'm keeping my design in mind the whole time, and I want to make sure that I don't remove anything that I don't need to remove. Alright, so a good couple hours later, here we are. Here's the result on the left side. Still haven't started on this right one yet, but we're looking really good on this side here. The 4 layers of fiberglass worked out to be just perfect. It was about a 1/4 inch of thickness. If I zoom up here, you can kind of see this dark area here is where the hood originally came up to, and then where you see the fiberglass, it's about a 1/4 inch of thickness. That was perfect for me to put in the primary detailing that I wanted to do. I went ahead and put that nice little dip in there that I wanted. It fits with all the rest of the kit, where I did that on the sides of the fenders as well, so it's all in unison with that design. I also decided to go ahead and throw a nice bevel in through this edge here, so the wall comes up, then it bevels, and then it will sink in like that. So it's going to be very nice, again in unison with the rest of the design language in the kit. Looks really good. This is pretty much where it's going to be for now until we go back in with filler, and we're going to fill in all this section right here just to make it a nice seamless blend from the carbon center section all the way up into the fiberglass walls here. And we're also going to be doing filler all along the sides here to kind of exaggerate this edge, put that little wall along the sides of the vents. Same thing with this right here. We're going to kind of build that right here with a little bit of filler. It's already set in fiberglass, so I'm not going to need a lot of filler to do it, just a skim layer on the top so that I can just shape the design into it. From this angle it's looking really good also. Got this back section really nice and flush, so a little bit of filler right there. We'll just blend this seamlessly. Got all my lines nice and tight. I know it's hard to see on camera. It looks probably like garbage, like hot garbage on the camera right now, but I actually got it looking really good in person. So next step is of course going to be doing the same thing over there. You know, that's something I'm actually going to do tomorrow. I'm just super exhausted and I'm hungry as heck, so I'm going to wrap it for tonight, and I'll come back out here tomorrow morning and I'll hit that. And then after that, once we get that one to the state that this one is in, then we'll go in and start laying down some more fiberglass for our extra details along the sides, in front of the vents, and the front section. We're going to build up right there as well. And the front is going to be really nice too, so it'll be like a quarter. We're still going to do the 4 layers, same thing, 4 layers on the front, so it'll be a 1/4 inch up, and then I'll add the bevel along the front as well. It's going to look really, really nice. Okay, so I'll pick this back up tomorrow morning. Still going to leave it in this video, and then we'll pick it up and I'll do that one off camera, and then we'll come fresh and start with some new work. All right guys, good morning. We are back. Got started a little bit later than I wanted to today, but I did get out here and I got that right side done, so you can see it's pretty much identical to the state of the other side now. Did all the same exact methods of cleaning up my lines and all that, put that same little bevel in there and everything, so we are about ready to get started on the rest of the build-up for the outer details. But what I've decided is I'm actually going to lay up some body filler. I don't usually touch the filler until like the very end, but I've decided just for the center section I'm going to go ahead and fill this area here just to give this a little bit more strength, so that when I go and open up the hood it'll be nice and strong. I can pull the clay out, and then fiberglass on the underneath as well, and the body filler is just going to give it a little bit of extra strength while I'm doing that work underneath. It's probably plenty strong enough as it is, but I just figured I might as well just get that out of the way. I got to do it anyways, so I'm just going to lay up the filler, get this blend right here. I'm not going to worry too much about getting it perfect and all that. I'm just going to put it on there so it's providing a little bit of extra strength. One other thing too, before I put my filler on, I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this who do this kind of work, but for those of you who are relatively new to this kind of work, whenever you sand down fiberglass like this and you get ready to do a skim coat of filler or anything like that, make sure that you look really closely at it and you see all these little white spots that are in there. Those are little pinholes, and you do not want to put filler directly over those. Those pinholes are filled with little fiberglass dust, and that's not cool if you're putting body filler over the dust, because it's not going to stick to that at all. So what I do is I usually take a brush, something like this, and over any areas where I've sanded and I see those little white spots, that's where I know the pinholes are. And to make sure that I get them all filled in with the body filler, I take my brush and I brush over them, and that way you can see how the dust is removed, to leaving just the little holes. And make sure you do that, and if you see any areas where it's kind of like this, where it's, you know, there's kind of, you can see it's actually fiberglass, I usually take my Dremel and just kind of drill it out a little bit, because that's an area where there was like a little air pocket or a little bubble when the fiberglass was laid down. So just make sure you go over it once with your brush, clean out all the pinholes, and make sure it's perfectly ready for your body filler application. Alright, so we have our filler applied now. I've got this area right here on both sides nicely filled, so this is super smooth to the touch. I wish you guys could feel that. It just feels fantastic. So we have a perfect union between this sidewall and the center section now on both sides. And I also went ahead and took the liberty to go ahead and fill all the rest of the pinholes, any imperfections that were in these things while I was at it, while I had the body filler out. So I went ahead and took care of that right now so we don't have to deal with it later. We will be going back over eventually and doing one final like a spot putty filler and all that, just to make sure we got everything as smooth and straight as possible. I also went ahead and made sure that I put filler in here in this little gap where the new fiberglass that we put is attached to the original carbon hood. I want to make sure that there's no little empty channels or anything in there that could show up in the primer or in the paint. You want to make sure it's all filled. So take a real close look at every little area. Make sure there's nothing that's obvious that's going to stick out to you, and just make sure you're filling it in. And again, like I said, just make sure you're not putting your filler over pinholes and dust and stuff. Make sure you dust it several times, and you'll be good to go for that. Again, the idea is not a lot of filler, the minimum amount of filler as possible on this entire hood. That's why we did pretty much all of our main construction in the fiberglass itself, and then we'll just be going over with filler later. So at this point we are finally ready to go ahead and start cutting new fiberglass pieces for the outer details and the front piece details there. Alright, so I've gone ahead and cut out all the fiberglass we're going to need for doing the outer ridge and the area just in front of the vents there. You can see I've got 2 pieces of the mat, 2 pieces of the cloth, and that's for this section and the outer section all the way leading up to where the front bumper connects right there. And so we're ready to go for fiberglassing on this. I just used the blue painter's tape that you see there to give me the approximate dimensions of the fiberglass that I needed, and then I just kind of drew with a pencil and traced over it with the fiberglass, and that's how I got how much I needed to cut. So we are all ready to go for fiberglassing these sections right here. I'm not going to do this section yet. I'll probably do this tomorrow, but I'm going to go ahead and get started tonight on this, because I actually cannot fiberglass right now. We're still in triple digits right now, so I got to wait till this evening till it cools down a little bit, at least into the 70s, before I can start mixing up the resin to do this. So I will catch you guys then. Alright guys, we are ready to go here for our fiberglass layup. It is nice and cool now. We're upper 70s, so that is perfect temperature to start mixing up some of this resin. Now I went ahead and I did all my masking right now, so anything that I did not want the resin to touch, I went ahead and masked. That's like my hood pins. The headlight, definitely don't want to get any resin on your headlight, because that's plastic and that can do a lot of damage to your headlight lens if the resin touches that. So make sure anything like that is all masked up. I went ahead and, like I did with this side, masked up where any resin might drip as I lay down the fiberglass right here onto the carbon vents right there, and of course I covered up my fender and all that. So we should have sufficient masking now. I'm just going to go ahead and lay down my 4 strips, and we'll have this section here done as well. I've got all my resin poured out, 4 cups just like last time. I probably will need all 4, because we are using more fiberglass this time than we were for just those little pieces right there. It's much longer, and we have the section in front of the vents there, so probably are going to end up using all 4 cups of this, but we will see. Hopefully I don't need 5. I'm going to go for 4 right now. I have all of my hardener also ready to go, so like I did last time, just do 1 pot at a time, and as you need it, quickly mix up another one. You got to move kind of quick with this, but if you do it like that, you greatly extend your pot life overall for your project. Alright, so let's get this going. Alright, we got the one side all fiberglassed up. It looks just like this. This is all 4 layers. I decided to do it a little bit differently than I did with with these, in that I switched up the order. Last time with these, I started with the cloth, and then I did a mat, and then cloth, and then mat. And instead I decided to go ahead and start with the mat this time, do the mat cloth, and it's going to be the same amount of thickness and all that, but I thought I'd try that just to see if it'll give me a little bit of an easier time smoothing it out. It looks pretty smooth as it is. I got a lot of the air bubbles out of there. It's really nice. One thing I wanted to mention is if you're doing fiberglass work, especially over large stuff like this, get rollers. Like, rollers are going to save your life when you're doing this stuff, because little air pockets and air bubbles and stuff are an absolute nightmare. So rollers really help to not only get the air out, but it helps to get the layers to adhere really strong because it just applies a little bit of pressure as you're rolling the air bubbles out. So it's a really good idea to have some rollers on hand and keep them clean. So now that you can see the fiberglass actually on the outside details and in front of the vent there, you can see that I'm not really going for anything like really extreme. I wasn't trying to bring this up like really high or put a big high wall on the sides. I wanted it very subtle, like just that 1/4 inch that you saw on the side there is really all I wanted to do, just to add a lot of character to this hood. A little 1/4 inch worth of thickness in fiberglass is really going to allow me to put my subtle details in there. That connection from the bumper is going to look great. It's not going to be like crazy high. It's just going to be a 1/4 inch little subtle body line that you may even miss if you're not looking for it. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and get started on this side. I'm just going to do the same exact thing I just did there over here. Alright, there we go. Got the other side glassed up just like that side, so we're good. We just have to wait for this to cure up again. We're going to be doing the center section tomorrow, and this is going to be really nice because this 1/4 inch of thickness is going to allow me to put in just some really nice, it's subtle but aggressive at the same time, nice new body lines that's going to connect from the hood, from the bumper up to the hood. And I'm going to bevel this, so this is going to come up like that on the side. It's not going to be like a big strip like that, don't worry. It'll all be blended to the hood, come up there, and then this is going to be really nice right around here. This is going to come up and then kind of follow that line down toward the bumper. It's going to be really nice, trust me. You may not see it right at the moment, but you got to trust me, guys. This is my thing. Alright guys, and that's where I'm going to wrap up part 2 of the hood build for Excelsior. Tomorrow morning I'm going to come out here and I'm going to do this center section right here. I'm going to do that off camera. It's going to be the same process, just doing the 4 layers of fiberglass and just cutting out the wedge shape. So you're not really missing anything, but the next time I turn on the camera, the center section will be glassed to the car. So we're at a really exciting point now where we're getting ready to start going in and doing our major refinement of all of the major shapes that we've put onto the hood now. This is the best part and also the worst part at the same time, because, well, the worst part because I hate sanding fiberglass. It's just an absolute nightmare. No matter how much precaution you take, it just gets everywhere in the skin, in the eyes. Even if you're masked up, it gets in the lungs. It's just a nightmare. I don't like sanding fiberglass, but it's the best part because this is where you really start to see the design that you have in your mind really start to come to life. So that's what's really cool. I love it and I hate it at the same time, but either way it's got to get done. So we're gonna get into the refinement stage on this hood, and I am very excited. So thank you so much for watching part 2. Part 3 is going to be coming up ASAP. I'll have it up as quickly as I can. So thank you guys, take care, and God bless.